Everybody, what's going on? And welcome to GNR Central. And we got some news for you guys today. So this happened, I think, on Friday night or Thursday night, and involves Duff McKagan. So he was acting super punk rock last week. He went to the panel discussion that was going on for the upcoming Epix docuseries just titled Punk. It's being made by Iggy Pop, who wasn't strangely at the panel discussion, as well as fashion designer John Varvatos. Now, at the actual panel discussion, they had, of course, Duff McKagan was there, Henry Rollins of Black Flag, Marky Ramone, and Donna Sparks, as well, of course, John Lydon from the Sex Pistols. And basically, John Lydon took shots at everybody, including Black Flag, who he basically he referred to their music as boring, and he pretended to mistake L7 singer guitarist Sparks for Iggy Pop. Then he really got into it with Ramone, though at one point calling the drummer a Johnny-come-lately and dismissing his opinion about punk rock as irrelevant, owing to the fact that he wasn't one of the 4 original Ramones. So here's the clip, and you can see Duff is sitting next to John the entire time. Things are getting a little bit awkward and tense. So it's also important to note that this docuseries is actually starting tonight. Unfortunately, I don't think we get Epix in Canada, but I'm sure it'll show up online somewhere. But if you guys are going to watch it, let me know in the comment section.
This is the best music that was ever out.
I just want to say that I came to, I knew about the Ramones and the Sex Pistols before I knew about Iggy and the MC5. So, like, as a teenager, those were the 2 bands that, like, were my youthquake, earthquake, and...
Oh, my God, I've just realized.
And it was amazing, and hang on, Tiger. Take it easy, Tiger. Let the broad speak for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
I want you to know I'm a married man.
What was cool when I discovered these bands was, like, there was such horrible music on the radio. It was god-awful. It was the 70s, the mid-late 70s, and it was also boring and, like, over 30s music. It was just terrible. And then when I heard the Ramones, I was like, oh, my God, this is, like, for teenagers. Oh, it's speaking to me. It's teenage. It's fun. I want to dance to it.
Fella next to you, can you tell him?
Henry's here.
Henry! Hello, Henry. Right. We ain't ever met before. No, sir. No, we ain't we? Right. You've said silly things, but excellently good things, too.
Yes. And you call Black Flag a bunch of suburban rich kids, and we want to tear your ears off.
Yes, I did, but I didn't like the fucking music. It was boring and unoriginal. This agenda is that he's propagating, and he's not even an original Ramone, but he's propagating this idea.
But I did the Blank Generation album with Richard Hell, and you took his image, and all you guys took Richard Hell's image. That's all you did.
Yeah, and you're still covering your fucking ears.
And that's all you fucking did was take Richard Hell's image. They did the Blank Generation album, and that's all you did.
All right.
That's all you did. And Sid Vicious was the star. That's right. He was the star of the band.
He was the
best.
For arsehole
He was
fake
great.
idiots like
He
you.
was great.
Enjoy your
He
drugs.
kicked ass.
Fucking have a happy
He
death.
kicked ass.
So turning now to some other news. So Guns N' Roses former manager Alan Niven was once again doing another interview. I feel like he does interviews like, 7 days a week almost. So he was on Rock Talk with Mitch LaFon, and he revealed he wasn't a big fan of Scott Weiland when he was in Velvet Revolver. So he said, well, in the interest of transparency and honesty, my partner and I went to see Velvet Revolver with Scott Weiland when they came through Arizona for the first time. Curly, aka Slash, myself, and Heather went into a hotel bar, and this was the first time that Heather had actually met Slash. And she was horrified because we sat down at the table, and I inaudibly across the table, and the first thing that out of my mouth was, "What are you thinking?" We're saying that to Slash. And Curly Slash goes, I know. I just didn't get it at all. I just did not see Scott's worth. Now we have to talk about everyone's favorite drummer in Guns N' Roses, and he is without a doubt the greatest drummer that's ever sat behind the kit for Guns N' Roses. I know I said this once before and people thought I was serious. Of course, I'm only joking. So Frank Ferrar was down in South Africa this past week. He's playing with a Guns N' Roses cover band, and he stopped by a morning radio show in South Africa and got behind the drum kit. and showed off what we have in store for another Guns N' Roses album if they actually go back in the studio.
This is in Johannesburg last year, November, at the FNB Stadium. He's back in the country. We've done something right. He's joined us as our guest on the show this morning, Mr. Frank Ferrer. Just a bit of a Friday Live. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Frank in person. Thank you so much. Everybody on stage tonight for Guns N' Roses tribute show in Johannesburg at Rumors Rock City.
Who needs Steven Adler and Matt Sorum when you have that awesomeness behind the drum kit? Now, one of my most popular videos recently that came out is the true story behind Iron Maiden and Guns N' Roses and why Guns N' Roses hated opening for them. And it's kind of funny, when you shoot these videos, you never know what's going to be big and what's not going to be big. And it's kind of the stuff that you don't think is going to be really popular that ends up being really popular with my audience. So literally a day after I released that video, Phil Lewis, who's the frontman for LA Guns, gave an interview with MA Entertainment Global and revealed how they opened for Iron Maiden, LA Guns did, in 1988 after Guns N' Roses canceled following frontman Axl Rose's vocal issues. So he said the following. He said, "At this stage, Guns N' Roses were simply too big to open for Maiden. I don't know what excuse they came up with, but they weren't doing it, so we got asked. It was always an honor to open for Steve Harris and the guys, and it was a challenge because we did Irvine and we did Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we basically weren't quite as well received there." He went on to say, "They just announced it right before we went on stage that Guns N' Roses can't make it, but we've got LA Guns." And it was like groans. We definitely had our work cut out for us. Now, turning to some non-GNR news, this, I guess, shouldn't come as any surprise to people, but with the Queen biopic Bohemian Rhapsody being such a huge success, there's already talks for a sequel that's going to be made. So according to Rudy Dolezal, who's the director who worked on multiple Queen music videos in the past, the band and the filmmakers are currently in discussions for a follow-up movie. In fact, Dolezal, who helmed clips for around 30 Queen tunes and reportedly became close with lead singer Freddie Mercury before his death, recently basically surmised that the longtime band manager Jim Beach has already had an idea up his sleeve for a new film that picks up where Bohemian Rhapsody left off. So he said, She said, "I'm sure he plans a sequel that starts with Live Aid," Dolezal told Page Six, before adding that the idea for a follow-up film to Bohemian Rhapsody is apparently being heavily discussed in the Queen family. So from a business standpoint, the sequel would really make sense. The Bohemian Rhapsody movie made an estimated $875 million at the box office, per the latest stats from Box Office Mojo, and that's against its reported filming budget of around $50 million. Now, of course, the period remaining to be dramatized on screen from Live Aid's mid-90s conclusion to Mercury's 1991 death spans the time of Queen's later work, including the albums A Kind of Magic, The Miracle, and Innuendo. So last year, Queen's Brian May told Classic Rock that Live Aid was likely the best point to end Bohemian Rhapsody. Still, he didn't count out the idea of a sequel to the film that recently took home 4 Oscars. He said, "I think Live Aid is a good point to leave it." He said at the time, "Who knows, there might be a sequel." So I think it's fair to say that if they do a sequel to Bohemian Rhapsody, it's definitely going to be more of a somber kind of story. And I would kind of wonder, would they end the sequel with the Freddie Mercury tribute show? My guess would be probably not, but who knows. But I really enjoyed the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, and let me know your guys' thoughts on it in the comment section. That does it for today's news. Thanks for watching, guys. The rest of the week, we've got a ton of true story episodes coming. I've literally been getting ideas day by day, and I hope you guys are enjoying them. And I think one of my favorite videos I've shot recently is the true story behind the murder that inspired the first line of Double Talk and Jive. That one seemed really popular with you guys, and if you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. I posted it yesterday. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit the like button and be sure to subscribe. Take care.
Dizzy Reed.